Welcome to the Future of Tourism podcast. I'm David Peacock.
We're talking about conservation.
If you are not credible, you never actually will be influential.
Bring everyone to the table
and imagine their world anew.
Today's guest needs no introduction, but he certainly deserves one. As Jack Johnson steps into retirement, we have a rare chance to look back at the arc of a career that helped reshape how this industry understands itself. From his early days growing up in the Midwest to the sharp end of state politics, to the moment he crossed into tourism and began insisting that communities, governments, citizens, and destinations must move together, Jack has been a steady, provocative voice for change. Today we talk origins, politics, purpose, and the future of truly engaged communities. It's a conversation I've been waiting to have. Morning, Jack Johnson.
How are you? Hey, David, how are you?
I'm good. How are you? Where are you? What's it like?
I'm really good. I am in home in San Antonio, Texas, where it's unusually cold and windy and gray, and we're getting a little, but not enough of the rain we need. But it's warmer than most of the United States, so.
Well, you look good. You look good for early in the morning. Hey, at DI, you announced your retirement, and that was a wow sort of shocker to everybody. You've been through a lot in the last year and a half. Do you want to just let us in a little bit on that, your choice?
Sure. Hopefully it wasn't too big of a shock, because I've literally been talking for a couple of years now about knowing that retirement was on the horizon, and I had originally targeted the end of 25, because that's how much time I felt I needed to finish the things that were still on the list to do. Don actually talked me into staying to the end of 26, so I agreed to do that, and then this amazing, incredible, and I'm sure there's another better word for a year that I'm in, happened, and just kind of clarified my thought process. But in the beginning of the year, I was diagnosed with with prostate cancer. It is an aggressive form of prostate cancer. It is not curable because it moved too quick, and I moved too slow. However, while it's not curable, it's highly treatable, and I am reacting extremely well to the treatment. So on the cancer front, I do not feel like someone who has cancer. And in fact, if I went to a doctor right now who doesn't know anything about my medical history and they just did a basic blood test and looked at my numbers, they might not actually pick up the fact that I have cancer, because my numbers are really, really good right now. So the cancer for the time being has been frozen, shrunk, and stabilized. We'll see how long that lasts. Hopefully for another decade or so. So I'm getting through with that. Then I developed the flu, thought I was over it, went to the CEO summit because I had a couple presentations to make. Didn't feel good then, came home, felt worse, went to the urgent care, which is something you shouldn't do if you have respiratory issues, because that's just not their specialty. Ended up going to the emergency room because I had pneumonia. And infections that were gaining on that. By the time I got to the emergency room, thank God, my partner brought me there. I went into cardiac arrest, and parts of my body just started shutting down. So yeah, twice in the cardiac arrest. Took 14 minutes to bring me back the first time, I guess. Another 5 minutes to bring me back the second time. I'm not trying for a third time, so.
Yeah, let's not try for a third time. Jack, that's just too intense for a year.
Slew of medications still, but literally I have been cleared by the kidney folks, the lung folks, the heart folks, and my general practitioner and urology, with the exception of the fact that I have cancer. In many respects, I'm healthier than most people my age right now after everything I've been through.
Well, I saw you in Sacramento, and I saw you again beginning of the week. You look great, Jack. It's really glad to have you back and
Thanks.
have your colors. So.
But during that journey, I basically refocused on why I had focused on 2025 in the first place. and decided to go back to my original plan, which was to retire at the end of this year.
Thank you, Jack, for sharing that. I know it's really personal, but there are so many people out there who care about you and know you and you touch them. And I'm really glad that you're able to share that. So thank you.
It has been overwhelming. I cannot thank everyone I know, the membership and the board and the staff and people like you. I mean, so many people reached out and it really, really helped me get better.
Well, okay. So all of those same people, they know Jack Johnson, so do I. But I never really got to ask the questions, where did you come from? I said Midwest. Is that right?
Yes, Midwest of the United States, yes.
Okay, so where did
Suburbs
it
of
start?
Chicago.
So university,
So
what was your undergrad? Political science?
political science and public administration. The idea was I was going to go into government and go into politics. I started working campaigns literally seriously when I was 16. First when I was 12, but seriously when I was 16. So I'd
You
actually
lied, you lied about your age.
I did like cut school to work election days and stuff like that. But I went to grad school because I'd worked so many campaigns. Or opened up an internship on the House Democratic staff. I was on the legislative side of the equation. I staffed committees. I was the one who read the bills and drafted them and basically did all the things that most people think a legislator did. Staff actually does.
Mhm.
And I was doing that. Part of the last bills I was working on was actually the creation of what was called the Metropolitan Pier and Exhibition Authority, also known as McPier, which
Yeah.
took the convention center and merged it with Navy Pier.
Yeah.
And when that happened, signed into law, I got plucked by the former deputy governor on the Republican side, actually, who
Mhm.
I'd spent time working across the table from him, hired me to work for him there. And that's where the community element really came in, because McCormick Place had such a bad rap for the way it expanded in, I think it was 85. That north building expansion is a classic example of how not to build a public project.
No way.
It's also where the ha-ha moment came, because my office was in the convention center.
Right.
So every week we had a new show come in, and I'd go upstairs and you could just feel the energy that was happening from the conventions and meetings, and finally kind of really understood what happens when people meet.
Was there a moment in the legislature that, other than the fact that you went to work in tourism, there was another moment that said, okay, I'm gonna move over to the tourism side of this?
Travel's always been there in the back of my head. Even when I was thinking politics, I was thinking, I'm going to grow up, I'm going to move to Colorado, and I'm going to become the governor of Colorado, because that's a great place to visit. So it's got to be a good place to live, right? Really planting that thought early on. But the other thing that's planting it all through this, and I don't want to lose this because it's really important, is, and I've spent most of my complete professional career, except for the days I slung pizza in grad school, on either working for government or not for profits.
Mhm.
I entered government very idealistic. I don't never lost all that idealism, but the bottom line is government serves a purpose, which is to serve the people. It gets its legitimacy from the people, gets its agenda from the people, trying to address those common goods.
Mhm.
That's always been my mind frame. So
Well,
when it all started coming together, it's not unnatural that I would settle in on that point of view.
at what point does it become your mission? Because there's a point, it's sort of interesting as we look in the rear view at Jack's stuff. There's a point where you start not just doing those things, but you start organizing them so that other people can do them. And you've been working on templating and putting this out. At which point did you decide you had to advocate for advocacy?
When I went um, to Chicago, that's where I actually probably for the first time put something together that is legitimate, something we called priority seating, which is what we were trying to do. We were trying to, at that point, people are still talking about getting a seat at the table. And I got the idea when I was waiting to get on a Southwest flight. And I was like in the bottom side of the B group, and which is enough to get you a middle seat, apparently, even though logically you should be able to get one of the windows or the aisles. But I'm sitting there as I'm waiting for my to be called, and I'm seeing all these groups come up. They have the people who are active service members, people who have handicaps and need more time, people with 2-year-old or younger children. Then there's like the rapid rewards members, and I'm like, that's where we need to get to Chicago to. We need to move them into this priority seating area at the time. And then at the time, I was kind of looking at that rapid rewards group. How did they do it? So the idea wasn't quite yet that we were a common good, which is what the other four were, but that we were one of the priorities, and that was our initial work. What I noticed when I built that original plan that was focused on the speaker and the Senate president, both who I knew from my days of working there, the problem that I realized after we got the big bill passed, and that was great, but the problem I realized, if you lose any one of those, you got to start from scratch again. So that's when I flipped the dynamic on its head and put together the plan that was aimed at building a broad-based coalition and positioning ourselves as the expert in this arena, so that if anything was talked about remotely to do with tourism or conventions or meetings or any of that, a call got placed to us. My happiest day, my most successful day, I still remember sitting in my office and having a legislative staff person call me and said, "Hey, we've got this bill that amends the Metropolitan Fair and Something Act. And my boss told me to give you a call to see if it affects you, and if so, where you guys are on this." I'm like, okay, we've achieved it. This is what we want to get. And that comes from having a really good plan. It also comes from, I'll talk about this in the one we released, but some really high level goals. And those goals are basically to be perceived, like I said, as the expert in this arena, a successful organization that gets things done.
When did the community shared value term come to you? When did you coin that?
The concept came when I was at McPeer. We were, let's see, CEO number 4. Turned out I'm quite a survivor. But CEO number 4, I got fired under number 5, but I survived 4. And she didn't really know the business, so she had all the departments make, their presentations on their business plan, whatever like that. And everyone talked about their customers being, the show people or this people or that people. I was the only one that walked in and said my customers are the community and the legislators and the government.
Okay, so in Chicago, at a time when the M is still in DMOs, let's be really clear, most of the world at that time is really seeing their job as marketing to people who live outside the destination. So you're doing foundational work to build alignment with the city because it needs to be done.
Yeah. I mean, the link with the community groups and stuff like that, the link to the community shared value comes when I go to DI, or it's still DMAI at that point. And they bring me on as the chief advocacy officer because during the hiring process, that's what they heard. We needed more advocacy.
It's not a title you coined yourself.
No, it's not.
Interesting.
I actually didn't like it, actually. But we spent like a year and a half or so, almost 2 years, doing triage. Each member was going through all those problems, and we were handling them one by one, and then we were trying to come up with tools that would help.
We were triaging the organization at the time too. I mean, it was built.
Totally.
I was part of that's where I met you. Actually, was the board in DI.
Yeah. We're going to spend our rest of our life doing triage unless we fix the root cause.
That's really understandable, but it just took off. I mean, advocacy, foundational work was really important. Funds were important. Advocacy was part of advocating for it, and then it just exploded. There was a moment when it just picked up so much inertia, and the first advocacy summit, you brought in a group of politicians, which people that DMO leaders and execs in the room, they never sat down with politicians. It was Karen who actually said to me, you actually made her eyes bug out. And then I think of John Grow going back to Rockford and just working that model for the next 8 years as well as anybody could.
It really flipped in 2019 when we coined the phrase community shared value. That's where I actually got up and said, guys, we've been doing it all wrong here. we forgot something we used to do naturally. And that 20-minute convention speech, which is
I remember. Was that Montreal?
no, that was St. Louis.
St. Louis, right?
2019 in St. Louis.
Yeah, I remember the barge.
Montreal, was it Montreal? No, it was Anaheim where we did the lexicon.
Was that the first
I
time?
remember them all. Yeah. We actually came up with the lexicon before we came up with community shared value, because the lexicon's a tool to help you guys, all the bureaus, communicate with their legislators. Community shared value is just, to me, something totally obvious. It basically reflects my whole career.
Well, and that's my affinity for your work. When I met you, same thing going on in my region at the time, the regional office, which is all these disparate stakeholders who have no ongoing or cogent or consistent knowledge of what tourism is, and therefore can only be engaged in drips and drabs. So the whole idea became to create a network, have them share the essence and DNA of a place, and then work on fixing things, making things, storytelling, animating. But so you can see why I gravitated to your work. You're going out the door at the end of the month, and you decided you would write a framework for basically advocacy across the board. This is the handbook. This is the field.
What we're calling the field guide. I actually decided to do that. That was on my 90-day work plan when I first came to DMAI. And we did a version that we released in 2020 during Advocacy Summit, but I've never been happy with it. I didn't think it was the complete version, and it kind of it lacked a certain lens, and it lacked a certain adaptability to no matter where you are in terms of developing advocacy work. So I wanted, before I left, to go back and do it right.
Well, okay, and we had the great luxury of sitting in on that Tuesday this week, which was 2 days ago from now. 4 key pillars to the advocacy framework you created: credibility, timing, relationships, and optics. And we've talked already this morning about how that evolved through the Chicago events. You also put very clear expectations that not all destinations are in the same phase of the journey. Some will be working on the credibility phase. Some have to work on the credibility phase before they can get to anything. When you talked about, why don't you explain credibility, timing, relationships, and optics for us, rather than me having to crack that?
See if I can get it right. Credibility, I think, is the foundation of influence. It is the most single important thing that you can bring to advocacy. If you are not credible, you never actually will be influential. And this is something that's earned. It's not claimed. You can't walk in and say, I am the credible expert here. People got to see it. And you gotta have a habit of providing accurate information, balanced analysis. This is one of the things that I pointed out to my boss at Choose Chicago in the very beginning. It's like, if our numbers say our marketing campaign's not working and we're going to change it, we should tell everyone the campaign's not working and we're going to change it. It's like, no, we can't admit that. I'm like, no, if you don't admit that, admitting that gives us credibility.
Absolutely.
And it's extremely fragile. If you can lose it like that with a misstep. Which is why transparency is so important in that. Timing is critical, because things can fail just because you've brought them up at the wrong time. You have to, the situation has to be right, and this is where paying attention takes into account. But you got to, as I said earlier, you need to mature a product, mature an idea, and then when things starting align and it's there, know that moment is there, and then a credible person can strike. But you can do that also because you have relationships. And if you don't have those authentic, ongoing relationships with people who can help you, candid, trusted conversations, that's not going to work. And then the optics itself. If the plan, I don't care how good the plan is, if it doesn't look good, and I've experienced this too. I've had a plan that made total, absolute sense that looked wrong and couldn't get it passed. You have to pay attention to the tone, inclusivity, and narrative.
Just sometimes simple wording in there that kills me.
Mhm.
So, I mean, as we're going as tourism destination organizations, we're going to build out assets, we're going to engage communities. When we go to our cities, the timing and optics is critically essential. You know, election cycles, so all those kind of things
Mhm.
play into this. But when you see it done really well, and I'm going to give you a great example, Sweetwater, Wyoming. You know the place?
Uh-huh.
Okay. So, I had the great pleasure of speaking after you at the CTA. Last year, you spoke at the Certified Tourism Ambassador
Mhm,
Summit.
mhm, mhm.
I had to speak this year. So this is from the CTA Summit. They send their regards. They have a thing called Flaming Gorge Tours, which sounds like, yeah, okay, cool, very cool. But the way they did it, they got it approved as one of the 37 National All American Roads drives. And
Mhm.
that opens up, in my assessment, 10 years of state and federal funding because now it's on a map. And I look at that and I think, okay, when I look at the credibility that they would need to even get started, and I'm sure it was hard to get started, the timing would have to be perfect around the community and the Fed and the state governments and the feds, the relationships and optics. But when it's done well and done, I said to them, I said, my hat's off to you. You've created a 10-year pipeline for development up and down this stretch of road that's going to involve restaurants, accommodations, attractions, events, experiences. It's pretty impressive.
It is. That's impressive when it happens.
Okay, and then there's the
I
times
find it
when you
amazing. I love it when it happens. I can just see it.
get any ideas when either credibility, timing, relationships, or optics go wrong at the civic level.
I've seen people lose credibility. Obviously, that's my coming to McCormick Place and Navy Piers because the group before me
Mhm,
lost
mhm,
all credibility.
mhm, mhm,
My boss had to go up and fire the board and say, and then we passed legislation, took them over. I got to Chicago because McPier lost credibility again, and I was able to leverage that. Um, and create an opportunity, timing,
mhm,
to actually pass that massive legislation bill to redo the business model and increase funding and stuff like that. Um, but I also had the relationships
mhm,
that
mhm,
shaped the conversations that I was having, and I paid attention to the optics of how the outside world perceives it. The cool thing is these four things: the credibility, opening the door, the timing, deciding when you walk through it, relationships, and
mhm,
optics all kind of work together.
mhm.
So
You need
you're
a
actually
finger hold.
trying to manage all four of them,
Yeah.
and when it's lightning in the bottle, then you strike.
Well, and you need a finger hold. Sometimes the finger hold can be something that's really optics. A place needs to deal with a perception that X is happening. So next thing you know, you've got that finger hold, you bring your credibility and your relationships and your timing to the table, and it works.
Mhm, mhm.
Okay. As we, as destination organizations, seek to work way more closely with our cities, it's essential that that relationship and respect becomes more balanced. Are you seeing that happening across the country?
I see it happening a lot of places. Yeah, not just in the United States, but in my travels in Mexico and Colombia, Canada, certainly,
Mhm, mhm.
across Europe, even in Japan and Australia.
Oh,
Um, I see people understanding that they've got, in many respects, need to build a coalition of public support. Um, One of the things, and this is one of the early lessons, I didn't put it in the proper perspective until later in life, but in order to pass a bill, you needed to have the leadership behind you because they were going to call the bill. But you actually had to prepare all those legislators
mhm,
so that they were in the position to say yes when the leadership came in and said, we're going to pass this bill. And they would all say, yes, we think that's a great idea. In fact, many of them probably asked leadership to give it. And the way you do that is you have to build this public program so that their constituents are behind it.
mhm.
And it all goes back to that alignment between the government, the political leaders, the community stakeholders, and the
So,
community itself.
so we spent the better part of the last decade working on the engagement piece, the stakeholder engagement piece, and to a big extent, trying to make this destination or the city a civic stakeholder in this in a big way. All right, and we're getting started. We were at Advocacy in Sacramento, and there's no question in that room. Nobody's asking, should we be doing advocacy? They're all trying to figure out, given their credibility, the timing realities, the relationships they have in the optics, where to start, how to leverage it, how to keep growing, how to grow it. The next tranche, though, is this question of citizen engagement. And you and I were in Tel Aviv together. We were in a couple of other places in Europe. You can see the citizen engagement models that evolve there are different. They're very socially based. How does that evolve in North America in the next 10 years, the citizen engagement in tourism? Again, shaping demand, credibility with those people. Talk to me, I mean, use a World Cup example, anything like that. But how do we start to bridge beyond the civic and the business stakeholder to the citizen now?
I've always said this from the beginning. The community should understand what a destination organization is and why it's there, and they should support it. And that's the basic plank. So anytime you can use an event like World Cup to show what an organization like that bringing something like this to the community is good for both the community
And
as residents, as well as the civic community as a collective. I hate to say it's simple, but it's just as simple as remembering who you work for. It's their brand, it's their community, and invite them and talk to them. The biggest screw up is people feel ignored, or people feel like you don't trust them to involve them and engage them, or to ask their opinion, and the one thing people totally love is just knowing what's going on. People hate when they don't know what's going on. And if they can be the one who knows what's going on and gives them something to talk about, those are all things that pushes you out into the community. The development, what made McCormick Place work while I was there, what made To Chicago work while we were there, is a very proactive outreach campaign into the community. One of the reasons we dropped our membership to $99 was that so everyone and their mother could join. And the only thing we gave them was the newsletter and email blast, and they loved it because they could talk about what was happening in the city. We created Choose Chicago Champions, who got together every month over lunch at Berghoff's, and I bring in a legislator, an alderman or whatever like that, and do that. We would partner with US Travel to do workshops, walkthroughs, whatever, forums with congressmen, senators. That constant drumbeat out in the public, trying to answer the various niche of interest to people and bring them on. So at the end of the day, I mean, when the city of Chicago was going through budget cuts and times were tough, I remember that one of the last budgets of Rahm Emanuel's had like two entities got increased funding, and we were one of them. Wow. It was us and the schools, I think.
All right, so as we move into this next decade of citizen engagement, advocacy doesn't change. We just have to apply those principles to our citizens. We have to engage them in a meaningful way. It's got to be timely for them. It has to deliver value. They don't have time to waste. But when I look around the world and I see initiatives like Gothenburg and its push towards full sustainability, or Bellevue, Washington, free electric cars brought to you as a partnership between the city, Amazon, and Visit Bellevue. Those are the kind of things that cut through the clutter. You've built an entire career helping destination leaders understand how to fix systems and fit into civic systems and how to leverage those systems. What does the next decade look like for you?
I want to get destination organizations beyond just connecting and communicating and showcasing for the community, and identify things that can help tourism as well as help the community. My big idea right now, it's not my idea, it's other people's idea, but if we're going to get a hotter universe and we're not going to make our goals and it's going to get hotter, then we need more shade. Okay, so whether it's trees or whether it's canopies or whether something like that, but that's something I think that destination organizations can get into. I don't know if you were in Sacramento, they have a complete tree canopy plan. It's
Yeah,
amazing.
yeah.
Other things, just those connections. I love building those, showing how you can build those connections. And most people are doing a lot of the right things. They just kind of need to bring it together. And I'll continue to spend time, I think, working on that.
Okay, so as you step away, what are the messages you want this industry to remember, especially rolling into 26, 27, 28? What do we have to focus on?
Purpose of community shared value, it goes back to that speech when you said, we forgot something we used to do. And that's where I wanted to get this industry back to what was driving it when they first created it, which is for community good, and a civic focus, which means funding shouldn't just be the hotels.
Mhm.
Create the civic focus. You've got to do that. It's not just public support, but realign yourself so you're not just aligned with one element within the community. And if that doesn't happen, I still think we're going to end up being in trouble because you need to actually diversify that funding. And you have to be seen as a community agenda
Yeah.
item.
And if that funding stays in the marketing realm, there'll be 100 pretenders to that throne with AI.
Exactly.
Lord knows what in the next 3 years. For sure,
Mhm.
for sure. All right, unfinished business you want this generation to carry forward for you?
I've left the roadmap. Um, the final piece of the puzzle is the other thing I'm leaving before I left, which is the idea of a capacity growth model instead of just trying to get beat last year's numbers. I think that will eventually spell disaster for everyone if all you're trying to do is cram more visitors and than you had last year into a destination. And actually, the capacity growth model, the idea is to actually be cognizant of where you're going to break down and what the community can handle. So you don't have a situation like you have in Barcelona,
So
and grow the community.
We saw early versions of that with capacity, compression, and comfort coming out of David and Tina's company. In that world, though, we're about to introduce the fact that the data systems between cities, tourism, state governments are all basically more interconnected than ever through the use of AI tools. So in there, do you ever see sort of a continuous open feedback loop where places, identity, people, and cities and tourism start to evolve as a thing that's together, not apart?
Oh, I think you'll see that periodically. I just think humans are so imperfect that they'll screw it up. We often screw it up. Um, no, I think there's a great opportunity. I'm really excited about what has happened in the last 10 years in terms of the technology side, in terms of the um, awareness side, and just the openness to be to the concept of being stewards, which changes everything when you start thinking of yourself as a steward of the community. Those three things coming together, and AI is just part of that. There's so much you can do with that. Yeah, this is an incredibly important and great period in our time. We've never been bigger. I don't think we've ever shouldn't be probably never been as influential as we should be, and we can really do it.
So, Jack, you contribute a great deal of that importance. I want to thank you for the clarity, the candor, the years you've spent in this industry, making it smarter, braver, more connected. Your work's shape not just policy but purpose. It reminds all of us that destinations live and die by the strength of the relationships. As you step into what's next, the field will keep moving on. For everyone listening, the challenge is the same one Jack's carried for decades. Stay engaged, stay credible, and keep building the future of the community, the one that it deserves. Anything to add to that, Jack?
I haven't done this alone. So the people who've been on the advocacy committee, but most importantly, my number two, Andreas Weissenborn, has helped me the whole way, who has made every one of my ideas better, who has brought ideas himself, which blow me away. I can leave because I feel like I've made an impact, but I can also leave because I'm leaving everything in good hands. And I want to underscore that because he doesn't get the credit he deserves for what has happened the last 8 years.
Jack, what's the biggest lesson you hope that all of us take from your career?
Twofold: never lose the focus on the community. That's where your power comes from. That's where your purpose comes from. And secondly, hopefully do what I am doing these days, which is being incredibly transparent. Too often we're afraid to share. And I think people need to share because from transparency comes credibility.